Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, and we're also going to stick to my home county of Skåne here in the very south of the country. We're returning to a brewery that's featured on the channel a good number of times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the years, and I would say that this brewery are known mainly for their hazy New England IPAs, and a little bit further back the fruity juicy hazy New England IPAs that they did. But these days they're also producing some really nice big juicy fruity sours, the Berliner Weisses and Goses and things like this, and also some really good pastry imperial stouts as well. So yeah, if those kind of beers tickle your fancy, then this is one of the Swedish breweries that you definitely want to check out if you haven't already. But the beer that we're going to look at today is the latest release from one of my favourite series of beers that they do, so I'm hoping that this is going to be a good one. Fingers crossed it makes for an interesting review, and hopefully you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to Helsingborg in the northwest corner of Skåne, a little bit to the north of me here in Lund, and we're going to have a look at another beer from Brewski Mikrobryggeri. So this particular beer is called the American Pie. As the name suggests, this one is part of their pie series of Berliner Weisses. It comes in at 4% ABV, and they're describing this one as a Berliner Weisse with blackberry, blackcurrant, raspberry and vanilla added into the brew. So this beer was released as part of the Lokal och Småskalig assortment through Systembolaget here in Sweden for August of 2021. So yeah, hopefully this is another good one. I can't remember actually what the last pie series I had was from Brewski, but it feels like it's been a little while. I think we had an IPA from them last month, come to think of it. But yeah, always enjoy this series. The triple berry pie was the very first one I had, and I would recommend that you guys try that one because that's a regular in many different Systembolaget shops, and it really gives a good representation I should say, of what this series of beers is all about. These things are very nicely done. So yeah, let's crack on with this one then and see how we go. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Brewski Mikrobryggeri in the past, and we will no doubt add some more to that list in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Brewski Mikrobryggeri once again. So, Brewski Mikrobryggeri, as I mentioned to you before, were founded in 2014 in Helsingborg in the northwest corner of Skåne, here in the south of Sweden, and the founders of this company are Marcus Hjalmarsson, Johan Britsen, Alfred Olsson and Robin Skoglund, all of whom were largely inspired by the West Coast American craft beers. But Marcus was originally associated with the High Nose brand of beer brewed at Höganäs Brewery out in Höganäs on the Kullaberg Peninsula, again to the northwest of Helsingborg. It's supposed to be very beautiful and somewhere that I do need to go and explore at some stage, but those beers are still brewed up there, and the original Brewski beers were brewed there as well from what I understand. But these days they've got their own facility in the old train yard, which is to the south of the central station in Helsingborg, and it's producing in the region of 100,000 litres of beer per month. But in 2016 these guys started their own beer festival, which is called Brewskival. It had over 40 different breweries in its first year, and it's expanded year on year. I first went there in 2017, and I think it was 60 breweries that year, and there's basically been another 20 breweries added onto it every year since then, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger. But they also used to open up the brewery once a month as a bar, which they called Barski, but they've also got their own bar now in central Helsingborg, which goes by the same name, and this opened back in 2018. If you go there, you can get some very nice authentic ramen. The chef there is actually from Japan, so yeah, it is worth going there. Originally they had an American chef, and what he was doing wasn't really ramen, but it was nice. I have to admit, what he was doing was quite nice, but they have got a proper Japanese chef now who's doing some very nice things. But they also brew some of their beers these days in the US at Tampa Bay Brewing Company in Florida, and they are looking to open up a bar in Oslo in Norway, from what I understand, which is where Marcus has a distribution company which is called Brewski, and this imports the Swedish beers into Norway. And I do hope that he starts to do it the other way as well and imports some of the different Norwegian beers down here and sells them through Systembolaget. I think that would be awesome, because we don't get enough Norwegian beers here in Sweden, actually, I would say. But over the course of 2019, these guys produced around 500,000 litres in total, and as of August 2021, when I'm filming this particular review for you, they have produced around 350 different kinds of beer, and that is constantly on the increase every month. They always release a couple of new beers through Systembolaget every month, and there's various new things go to other places in the world as well. But that is all I can really tell you about Brewski Mikrobryggeri for the moment. These guys, like I say, were known for their Fever series originally, the Passion Fever, the Mango Fever, and so on. Big fruity, kind of hazy IPAs actually, and those are very, very good beers that I do recommend you check out. These days they're doing more kind of softer, smoother New England IPAs. They've got their fruity, juicy sours like this one, the Pie series, and they've also got the Cake series of Imperial Pastry Stouts, which I recommend you check out as well. So that is a brief history of what Brewski is all about. A lovely, lovely brewery, and probably one, I think it's maybe fair to say that these guys in Brewery are the best known Skånsk breweries. They're certainly the biggest by volume, I think, when it comes down to it. But really nice breweries, these ones, I would say. So that's it. If you want to learn more about Brewski, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So that is it. Let's get on and take a look at this beer itself. So as you can see, the artwork on this one is pretty nice. I have to say, I am not sure about the connection between the ingredients of this one and the American Pie. I don't know if it's meant to just be a tribute to the film series or something like that, which it could well be. But as we said earlier, this one comes in at 4% ABV. It's a Berliner Weisse with blackberry, blackcurrant, raspberry and vanilla added into the brew. But 330ml can, this one. There you can see the little Brewski man on the bottom there, which I do like. Plain silver top on this one, and as always, this is one of these little slim 330 Red Bull type cans. But this should be quite nice. I think this is the seventh or 8th beer that I've had from this Pie series now, come to think of it. But I do enjoy these, and whenever they release a new one, I'm all over that. But let's get this guy out and we'll get on with the tasting then. So, as I've often said when it comes to these kind of fruity, juicy Berliner Weisses, I find these beers remarkably straight shooting, but if they're done well, then they can give you they're just lovely to drink actually. They're very straightforward beers, both in terms of their aromas and flavour profiles, but they are just, really lovely to drink actually. Enjoy these big kind of fruity, juicy Berliner Weisses and Goses and things like this. So other breweries to note in Sweden when it comes to this particular style would be Elm 11 from Malmö, Duck Pond Brewing Fermenterarna are doing some really nice things. So I would recommend that you check out those. Elm 11 are very up and coming incidentally, so give them your support if you get the chance to try some of their beers. They do some really, really nice things. But we have this one out and into the glass now, and this, I have to say, looks very, very impressive. So while the head is at its peak, I guess we could say, you can see that it's poured with about a one finger kind of candy violet. I guess a candy violet is probably a good way to describe this one. A candy sort of violet head, very, very fluffy. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass there, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head, and I think we can safely say that this beer is a very nice kind of wine-ready colour there actually. It reminds me of a Gibson SG guitar. It's not a million miles away from the wine-red colour that you used to get on these things. A Heart of Midlothian football shirt would be another descriptor, a very nice dark burgundy. But remember, the colour of your beer depends on 1, the type of malts that you use. That determines the magnitude of the colour of the beer normally. 2, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role. The longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, thus you get a darker colour of beer. Then any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts that you put into the beer are going to affect it as well. So I think you can see quite clearly that's been the case for this one. The raspberries, the blackcurrants, and the blackberries in this one have had a bit of fun in this. It's very, very nice and dark. So the colour of this beer, when you consider what it is not surprising in the slightest. The adjunct's really taking the lead in this one. But yeah, beautiful stuff. You always get some lovely colours out of these Berliner Weisses and Goses and things like that, because otherwise they would just be, kind of bright and yellow. But the berries certainly have gone to town on this one. So yeah, looks like a lovely beer, this one. Pretty much what you'd expect, as I say, when you consider what style of beer this one is. And it is pretty damn hazy. Remember, the haze in these beers really depends on the oat and the wheat content more than anything else. But yeah, let's take a look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. I'm really curious about this beer. Yeah, I love these things, I really do. So this one, it's very similar to what we've had in this series before. I mean, you can smell a sort of bready backbone to it. You can smell that sort of smooth white bready character in there. You can smell the wheat kind of thickening it out. The oats are giving it a lot of creaminess. It's almost like the backbone of the beer is a little bit like, petit filou yogurts. That's what the vibe of this beer really is like, rather than anything else. But yeah, I think everything kind of pieces together very nicely in this beer, in fact. So yeah, lovely aroma to this one, I have to say. The backbone of this beer is great. So yeah, bready, a little bit wheaty, wee tiny bit of bread crust, I would say, but overall it's the oaty creaminess that's in there. You get this big, sweet, yogurty, petit filou sort of thing. You can smell the vanilla rather, sweetening the whole thing up as well. So the backbone of this beer is very kind of sweet and very, very candied, and I think it just goes about its business really in a really nice way. I do want to say though, I think there is almost a little bit, I find with this one, you're getting a little bit of a kind of Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy type aroma to this beer as well. So that certainly goes down very well for me as well. Yeah, the aroma that comes out of this one, I think, just is awesome. So yeah, the big fruity juicy side of the beer just complements it very well. But the backbone of this one, as I say, very, very thick, creamy, sweet sort of thing. Bit of Werther's Original in there, bit of vanilla giving you the sweeter side. Big creamy yogurt notes from the oats, I think, as well, and a bit of a kind of thickening wheaty note and a little bit of breadiness to it as well. So it's a lovely, lovely smelling beer, this one, from the malty perspective. Now this beer, let's just have a look at this, because I've commented on this with the beers before as well. One things that these you will notice with this, it says in English it contains barley, wheat and oats, and then in Swedish as well, corn malt, vete och havre, which is barley malt, wheat and oats again. If you look at some of the other languages, it says, like in Italian for example, lupolo, and in German it says Hopfen. So in some of the languages it says it contains hops. So I'm never 100% sure with these Brewski beers actually whether they contain hops or not, but they certainly they don't seem to, I would say, in terms of the flavour. From what I know, the Elm 11, they definitely don't put hops in their beers, and these ones taste very, very similar to that, and you get the same kind of thing that almost feels a little bit like a placebo effect out of this. So you can certainly smell a little bit of a green quality of this one. There is a wee bit of a kind of grassy, floral sort of vibe to the beer, but it's quite minimal, to be honest with you, I would say. So yeah, I do like how this beer goes about its business in that regard. You get just a nice little bit of green depth to this one as well, but some of that might well just come from the berries themselves rather than anything. But yeah, aroma wise, this one gives you everything you would want. So on the fruity side of things, you can smell that the blackcurrant is the kind of backbone of the beer, and then the blackberry is the one that's kind of given the fruity notes a little bit more oily character, but the sharpness and the zip to the sort of fruity side of this beer is most definitely the raspberry. So the raspberry is the most kind of out there. The raspberry is certainly the most kind of out there of the different fruits that you can pick up in this one. So yeah, lovely big kind of fruity. You can smell the fruits are very kind of juicy and rounded, but at the same time you just get a little bit of that kind of sharpness out of them. So yeah, the way that this beer goes together, I think, is very, Very nice, in fact. So, yeah, it goes about its business really, really nicely in this one. So, yeah, I think it's a lovely beer in terms of its aroma, that's for sure. But you always get awesome aromas out of these big fruity, juicy Berliner Weisses and things like that. And as I say, these beers, they come across as remarkably straight shooting in the aroma. And the flavour as well, but if they're done right, they're beautiful, beautiful beers, I would say. So yeah, as I always say, take a bit of time to ponder over the aroma of these before you get stuck into them. But yeah, this one I think is going to be very, very nice. So yeah, this one is the American Pie, a 4% Berliner Weisse with blackberry, blackcurrant, raspberry and vanilla added into the brew from Brewski Mikrobryggeri in Helsingborg here in Skåne, in the south of Sweden. Let's get stuck into this one. Slange, skål, and cheers. Let's go for it. Yeah. Once again, that's pretty damn solid stuff from Brewski, but we shouldn't expect any less of them at this point in time. So just going to say thumbs up to them once again. This is really nice. Now, one thing I will say, people often ask me what is my favourite of this kind of cake, the pie series, that they've done. And I'm going to say straight away, it's actually, these beers are quite similar in a lot of ways. It's just, you know, it really would come down to personal preference rather than anything, which is the whole point of the question. So I would probably always go back to the triple berry pie because it's the nostalgia effect, and you know, you have this, I mean, with some beers that you try from a brewery, it's the first one, you always remember the first one, but then when you have other beers that are similar after that, they're maybe just not quite as memorable because it's always that first contextual cue that the mind goes back to. And it's the same with a lot of these. Like, I love these beers and trying the different ones, but you just, unless there's something like really quite different about them, you're not going to remember them compared to the first one that you had. So yeah, that's the thing is, I mean, this beer, I've had quite a few of these beers from the pie series, and they've been more berry orientated, and they're always really nice. And don't get me wrong about that, these are top quality sour beers, but it's always difficult to pick a favourite just because they are so similar, I think. So yeah, but again, lovely beer this. Let's try and break down the flavour for you and just explain it a little bit more. So, as I've explained in other videos as well, the thing for me that makes a good sour is the sort of transition that the beer has. So when you take it in, if it's got a, you know, if it has a sort of, you're always going to get a little bit of an impact with these beers. They're always going to give you a little bit of a really sharp tart thing in the beginning, but the way they mellow out and sort of give you a bit of, you know, show their sweeter side and their drier side and things like that, that transition for me is what makes a good sour beer. And you always get nice, you know, you always get a nice transition with these Brewski beers, that's for sure. Yeah, so on the kind of malty and sweet side of things, this one I think goes together really well. The impact that you get with this one, it's just got a little bit of tartness there, then it rolls out and becomes really smooth and creamy and juicy. So I definitely like how it goes about its business in that kind of sense of the word. But yeah, let's focus on the malty side of things before we go back to the fruitiness. I always prefer to do the fruitiness at the end because you let it evolve a little bit more, but the malty side of things then. So middle third and back third of your palate, you can feel straight away that nice kind of smooth white bready backbone that the beer has. The wheat sits on top of that and really, really smoothens the whole thing out. Now if you focus on the middle third of your palate, you can feel that in the front half of that middle third of your palate, that's where the kind of vanilla really comes out of the beer, and that's the first kind of sweet part of the beer. But remember, you've got this spectrum on your palate where the kind of more grainy and dry flavours and bitter flavours come out towards the back, and as you move further and further forward, it is the sweeter flavours that come out on the palate. So on the malty side of things, as I say, front half of the middle third of your palate, that's the vanilla, but sitting on top of this you can feel that big thick oaty layer, and it's almost like you've got a big circle in the middle of your palate with this one. You can feel that nice big oaty creaminess just sitting there. So, on top of that, there's a little bit of a kind of Werther's Original sort of thing. So yeah, on top of the big kind of oaty circle, if you like, you can feel a bit of that kind of, you know, Werther's Original butter candy, butterscotchy type thing, and I think that lingers into the aftertaste. I always like that with these beers, how you get just a little bit of that Werther's Original type of note, and the way that the oats and the vanilla interact, the way that all of these things interact in that sense, is really good. This beer, on the malty side of things, it really does have a little bit of that kind of yogurty, petit filou sort of thing, and I always mention that in these Brewski Pie series beers, as I do in quite a few of the things that I have from Elm 11 or, you know, Duck Pond, these kind of breweries that do these types of beers. But yeah, middle third of your palate on this one is really nice. It's a lovely kind of thick, sort of creamy type thing. So yeah. So yeah, I do like how that goes together in this one. But yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the middle third of your palate. So let's focus on the back third of the palate then. So border region between the kind of middle third and back third of your palate, you get a little bit of a bready build up there, quite smooth and white bready in a sense, but the base of the back third of your palate is exactly the same. Soft white bread, really thicker wheaty note there, a tiny bit of bitiness from the wheat at the very back of the palate, but the oats actually kind of spread far back on the tongue in this one as well, which is kind of interesting. That does give you a big sweetness to the beer, because the sweetness from the oats really do sweeten up in this one as you go further back, and that thickens the whole beer up. And sitting on top of the oaty character, you get that more yeasty kind of quality of the beer, and it's a more airy kind of white bready element there. So when you start at the back of the palate, you can feel the flavour is quite tall, and as you come further forward, it condenses down a little bit. Then as you go into the middle third of your palate, it is a little bit more squashed together. But this is a pretty damn big and thick Berliner Weisse. So yeah, I like how it goes about its business for sure. Yeah, it is, the malty, yeasty side of things in this beer is pretty nice. But I think we've said everything we really need to say about that. So on the sides of the palate then, the green component, but as I say, a lot of the green component in this beer I suspect is placebo effect, but I still get a little bit of it anyway. There's a teeny wee bit of earthiness there in the back corners of the palate. It's very, very smooth as you move further forward, but there's a teensy little bit of a kind of floral note on the front corners of the palate, then around the front curve of the tongue, just a little bit lighter and grassy for me. And then on that front third of your palate as well, you've obviously got the big juicy fruity notes, and it's not really oily from the kind of from the hops, of course, because this beer I heavily suspect it doesn't have hops, even though it says it in some of the languages. I'll need to tell Marcus about that. But yeah, it's really interesting. Now on the fruity side of things then, on that front third of your palate, the base of the front third of your palate, the border region between front and middle third of your palate incidentally, it's got a little bit of a kind of thicker, more white bready kind of note to it, as we say, but then the base, and you can feel some of the vanilla kind of creeping forward. There's also a little bit of a more kind of oaty, there's a little bit more of a kind of oaty, creamy sort of thing in there as well. And the vanilla, I think, just sweetens it up, and then the fruits just sit on top of that. So the fruity character is kind of as I suspected it would be from the aroma. So you've got a lovely kind of blackcurranty base to the beer, if you like. You can feel that sort of forming the backbone of it. The blackberry sits on top of it, but then the raspberries are the things that are sitting right on the very kind of tip of the tongue, if you like, and they're the ones giving you the big zest, I think. Yeah. Now, blackberries are capable of giving you a bit of tartness as well, but it's just behind that very tip of the tongue, it's the raspberry that's doing that, you know, very quickly. I think the blackberry kind of mellows out a little bit more quickly than the raspberry does. There's a bit of tartness that lingers there from the raspberries, but then underneath, of course, you've got the black currants. But of course, you get a few other fruity kind of things. You get like a little bit of a candied strawberry to this one, almost a little bit of a kind of figgy quality as well. You always get these little kind of complexities out of the beer as well when you with these kind of fruity juicy sours. You'll always get little undertones and things like this, but with this one I feel you can really see the blackcurrant is the backbone, the Blackberry is the one that's kind of sitting in the middle and oiling up the fruity characters, and the raspberry is the one that's sitting on top and giving you the sort of tartiness and zip to the beer. But you can also feel that some of the juicy fruitiness spreads around that front side of the palate. So this is one of the things with these fruity sour beers, is that you this is one of the things with the fruity sour beers that, you know, if you add hops, is there a point to it? Because the fruity juicy notes just kind of, you know, they sort of fight against the kind of green side of the beer anyway. But whatever is going on with this one, I think this is really nice. It's another very solid addition to the pie series for me. Is it one of my favourite ones? Like I said, that's a very difficult question, but I think it goes about its business really nicely, and I do like the way the blackcurrants, I do like the way the fruits interact in this one, and I feel that this one is a little bit sweeter and a bit more forward on the vanilla than some of the other ones we've had previously, and I'm a big fan of vanilla, so that is up my street. So all I can say is that I have enjoyed this one quite a lot actually, and it's worth checking out. You know, try any of the beers from this pie series, and I'm pretty sure you will enjoy them. There are one or two more yellow sours, as I call them, you know, pineapple-y, tropical fruit orientated ones, but the majority of them, pardon me, are berries of some description. The most quirky one I think was the dragon fruit pie, which was interesting for sure. But yeah, I think this beer has again been very, very nicely done. So thumbs up to Brewski once again for that lovely big, smooth, fruity, juicy Berliner Weisse, quite sweet as I say as well. But let's round off this review with a look at the mouthfeel then. So again, this one, lovely big smoothness to it. I would say that overall it's kind of pushing towards the top end of mid-bodied. Smooth, creamy, very, very light carbonation, everything you'd expect of one of these modern, big, sweet Berliner Weisses, absolutely. But yeah, malty side of things, this beer is very, very, it's got a lovely smoothness to it, big creaminess, and also a little bit of sweetness that comes out of it a little bit later on. In terms of IBUs, I think technically speaking this beer will have 0 IBUs, but in reality it's going to have maybe 5 or 6 or something like that, a very low amount of IBU. And you do get wee bits of graininess and stuff like that, and a little bit of a kind of green, how do we say, a kind of green placebo, if you will. But yeah, I think that that works out very nicely with this beer. But on the that side of things, I think, you know, it does give you a wee bit of, you do get a little bit of a kind of green component, I think, from the berries in this one. But the malt base, as we say, smooth, creamy, and then sweet on top. The green component just is very smooth as well, but it gives you a wee bit of depth to the beer almost. And the fruity, juicy side of things is quite oily, and it's just got a little bit of tartness there. I think the tartness in this beer lingers a little bit more in comparison to others that I remember in the series too. But you always have to remember also that your palate is developing, and different things happen. You interpret different flavours in different ways at different points in time. So yeah, that is always worth remembering with these Berliner Weisses and stuff too. But yeah, that's it. That's all we can really say about this one. But another solid beer once again from Brewski Mikrobryggeri. So a big thumbs up to them for this one. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this review. So this one was the American Pie 4% Berliner Weisse with blackberry, blackcurrant, raspberry and vanilla from Brewski Mikrobryggeri in Helsingborg, here in Skåne in the very south of Sweden. A lovely, lovely addition to the series, this one, and I have thoroughly enjoyed it. So yeah, thank you again for watching. Check out my social media, check out theirs. Let me know your own thoughts on the beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite series is, your favourite beer is from the pie series as well. I'll be interested to hear your thoughts. But thank you again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Take it easy, and make sure you try some of these pie series beers from Brewski. Slàinte just now.